Hey guys, welcome back to FHC Tactical. It has been about 3 weeks since I've been able to do one of these videos, and it seems like forever, but it's good to be back. I just finished doing the gold dot test for the day. It was a 5.56 223 round. We'll leave a link in the comments and at the top of the page here for that. But what's on tap for this particular one is a Federal test 223. We've got our Fusion MSR 62 grain, and we're going to run it against our Federal law enforcement round 62 grain. These are both bonded. This one is the LE223 T3. This one is the F223 MSR1. So that's the two rounds that we're going to use. And as far as the rifle that we're going to be shooting it out of, it's a 16-inch PSA upper, Franklin Armory Lower. It's a 1-in-7 twist on that 16-inch. And the second one is going to be our 11.5-inch pistol from PSA, also with a 1-in-7 twist. And as far as the setup, we're going to get our chrono set up. We're going to get a 5-round average. As always, it's going to give us our muzzle energy and our average velocity. Then we're going to set up our gel test at about 20 yards. And then we're going to have a 4-layer clothing barrier, a layer of denim, 2 layers of cotton, and a layer of fleece on that. We're going to go 1 round out of each gun and see how it performs in the gel and see if it's going to give me what I'm looking for. And as far as what I'm looking for my self-defense round is 14 to 16 inches of penetration, although I would be okay with a little bit more. My particular setup for personal defense, I'm not as worried about. I don't have any neighbors, so I'm not worried about the neighbors' kids. The way my kids' bedrooms are set up, it's different. So I'm not necessarily worried about over penetration. I want to make sure I'm getting to a point where I can do damage. And so I'm looking for good expansion, good penetration. And as far as expansion, we're looking for something like a 1/2 inch of expansion off of these rounds. I think we're going to get it off of these today. I'm really excited. These are more my style. The bonded rounds, the 62 grain, generally work really well. So we got a little bit more to get set up here. We're going to get that set up and we're going to get going. Okay guys, first round up is going to be the Federal Law Enforcement 62 grain. And we have our 11.5-inch barrel up. Here we go. $25.83, $25.81, $25.55, $24.77, $24.86. Okay guys, next one up is going to be the 62 grain Fusion MSR, and we're still on the 11.5-inch. Here we go. $25.92, $25.37, $25.63, $25.89, $26.19. That is 5. All right, guys, we swapped over to the 16-inch barrel. We still got the Fusion MSR 62 grain loaded up. Here we go. $27.99, $27.74, $28.28, $27.94, $28.19. That is 5. Okay, guys, last one up is going to be the Federal Law Enforcement 62 grain out of the 16-inch barrel. Here we go. $28.33, $28.15, $27.73, $27.56, and $27.93. That is 5. Okay guys, let's run through the numbers real quick on our Federal 223s. The law enforcement 62 grain out of the 11.5 inch, we were at 25.36 feet per second. Extreme spread of 106 and standard deviation of 46. A little high there for my taste on the extreme spread. I think we had two that were, the last two I think we shot were quite a bit lower than the other ones, so that's the reason for that. Out of the 16 inch, we were at 2794 on feet per second for our average velocity, extreme spread of 77 and standard deviation of 28. Still a little high even with that one. It's better than out of the 11.5 inch barrel, but our extreme spread there was just a little high for my taste. The Fusion MSR 62 grain out of the 11.5 inch barrel, we were at 2580 on our average velocity, extreme spread of 82, and standard deviation of 28. And out of the 16 inch barrel, we were at 2802 for our average velocity, extreme spread of 54, and standard deviation of 19. The velocities out of the Federals here seem to be a little higher than the gold dot that we did earlier in the day. We did another test. I think it was somewhere around, for the 62 grain, was around 24-23 out of the 11.5 and 2708 out of the 16 inch. So we've got about 100 feet per second higher on our average velocity out of the two Federals, or pretty close to that anyway, out of the 16 inch barrel. So just something I noticed there, we're getting a little higher on our velocities. So I don't know if it'll make a difference in the gel, but as far as the velocities between the two of these rounds, they're neck and neck. There's no real difference. So we're going to get out there, we're going to set up and see what it looks like. All right, we didn't get to finish up last night, so I had to come back out here today to finish this test. We've got our gel set up at 20 yards. We've got our 4-layer clothing barrier, and we've got the Federal Law Enforcement 62 grain soft points loaded up. Let's see what we get here. All right, we're going to look at this real quick here. Came in, gets really good expansion right away, really good looking initial wound track. That thing opens up right about 1 inch. And like I said, really good wound track there. Trails off somewhere about 6.5 inches. And you can see it come down and into the second block right there. And that's going to be right about 17, right at 18 inches, just shy of that, maybe 17, 7/8, 17 3/4. Looks like, I think 17 3/4. So really good performance, it looks like. Looks like we've got a good expansion on it. Won't know that exactly until we get it out and look at it, but overall that looks like a pretty good round. Okay, we've got the Federal Fusion MSR 62 grain bonded soft point loaded up. Let's see what we get. We're still with the 16 inch barrel here. I think that's a good shot. Let's go down there and look at it. Okay, let's look at this one real quick. If you thought they were going to get similar performance like I did, you are wrong, completely wrong. That thing looks like it has expanded out phenomenally out of that. And the initial wound track up here also is great. Looks a lot similar up here, but man, you can tell this thing really opened up a lot better than the law enforcement round. That's got some really good expansion there. And we are talking, oh, right at 14, maybe 13 3/4 inches on penetration out of the 16-inch barrel. So I really like this round. I have high hopes that it does pretty well out of the 11.5-inch barrel, because if it does, I got to tell you, this would be my new favorite. So don't want to get my hopes up just yet, but that is a phenomenal round right there out of the 16-inch. All right, we've got the 11.5-inch barrel up and the MSR Federal Fusion loaded up. I got high hopes for this one, man. I hope it works good. Let's see. Can't tell if it's a good shot. We'll go down there and look at it real quick though. All right, let's look at it real quick. It's kind of blurry now because it got knocked off and got all kinds of stuff in it, but we can still make it out. It's going to be this bottom track right here. Comes in right away. You get really good expansion. Looks like 1 1/4 maybe. Opens up really good. We get a really nice initial wound track that comes down. That looks like about 9 3/4. Get the right angle it does. But the thing that I really like is our penetration just sneaks into this second block. And it's hard to see because we're all blurry now. But man, if I can get to the right angle, that looks like it gets really good expansion. So I'm going to hold judgment until we get them out and get them measured. But man, I think this is going to be a phenomenal round for home defense, personal defense, anything that you need to do. But I'll hold judgment until we can get it out and look at it and measure it. But man, from here it looks really good. All right, last one for the day. We've got our Federal Law Enforcement 62 grain loaded up in the 11.5-inch. Let's see what we get here. Yeah, that looks like a good shot there. We'll go down and look at it real quick. All right, let's look at this real quick. Looks good on this end, does real good. Comes in about 1 1/4 or so, opens up. We get a nice initial wound track down to 6 inches or so. And then comes down. It may turn there because you get another one there and it ends up going in the right direction, but that may have turned at one point, maybe what this is over here. But we come down to right at 22 inches. Now you get good expansion. However, I don't think it's going to be anything like out of the hunting round there. You can tell just kind of peeking in there, it gets deeper into that round than it does with the law enforcement round. But still get good performance out of that. It would be a good round, but I really have a feeling that once we get those out, I'm going to like that MSR really good. I think it was a buddy of mine, Andy Robinson, that turned me onto this round to begin with. And I have to say, man, it was everything that he built it up to be. So we'll dig them out, get a good look at them, and give you some final thoughts. All right, we've got everything back in the shop. We are going to get some final measurements here and give you our final thoughts. We're going to start with the Federal 62 grain law enforcement round. And you can tell it got good, consistent expansion, good performer here. This went 18 inches in the gel, so no worry of over penetrating there. Let's see what the final weight is. Started at 62, it's going to end at 62. As far as our expansion, 0.513 and 0.517 looks like. So Very consistent, good performer. Nothing wrong with this round. This will be a good performer. Let's look at the 11.5 inch barrel out of the same round. Again, good consistent expansion there. Doesn't get quite into the depth that the one out of the 16 inch did, but that's normal. That's pretty much the case for all the rounds that we look at between those two. Started at 62, it ends at 62. Good bonded rounds, not going to have any loss, so no worries there. And as far as expansion, let's see what we get. 0.444 and 0.439. So again, good consistent performer. Nothing wrong with this round. Did really well, just like most bonded rounds do. However, when we get to the MSR 223, you can see the absolute difference. This is the one out of the 16 inch, so let's grab the 16 inch of the other one. And you can see you get much more expansion and quicker. Really burns through the depth on that round. I really like this round for self-defense. Let's see what we lost anything. It's possible we lost something off of this one. Yeah, 0.58 or 58 grain, not 0.58, but 58 grain. So we lost just a little bit. But for self-defense, I really like how this round performed. Let's see if we can get expansion numbers off of this somehow. So 0.59 and 0.633. Really nice out of that one. I really like that round. Let's look at the 11.5 inch. It's not as mangled as the 16 inch barrel. The velocity just a little lower. This one out of the 16 inch went 13 3/4. The one out of the 11.5 went 16.5 inches. So probably the best performer I've seen out of a bonded round out of the 11.5 inch barrel as far as penetration and expansion. Normally this is the one that the velocity just isn't good enough to get the expansion that you're wanting, so you get over penetration, but you didn't get that with this one. Started at 62, it's showing 60, so maybe we lost a little bit off of it, but I don't think it's much. Let's see if we can get some expansion numbers here. Let's see. 0.5325. Let's turn it over here and see. 0.513. And at the narrow over here, still 0.51. So real consistent across the board on our expansion. Good penetration. I really like that round as far as a self-defense round. Okay, so final thoughts on our Federal Fusion MSR bonded 62 grain versus the Federal Law Enforcement 62 grain bonded. What did you guys think? I think it's been pretty obvious what I thought, but I'll start with the 62 grain bonded law enforcement round. It did a really good job. Pretty much like every bonded round that we've done. It does what it's supposed to. It's a good barrier blind round normally. It gets in. Does a good job. It penetrates well, generally on the far end of penetration. And generally the problem is the 11.5 inch barrel. You just don't get enough expansion there to have it not over penetrate. Generally with that 11.5 inch pistol, you'll see 21, 22 plus inches of penetration with a bonded round. However, with the MSR, we did not get that. We got 16.5 inches on penetration out of that pistol with about a half inch of expansion, which is perfect for what I'm looking for. With the 16 inch, we got 14 inches of penetration with like way over a half inch of expansion. So it was really good. In my opinion, it's been the best self-defense bonded round we have tested to date. I liked it so much, I actually ordered several boxes and I began to rotate out my mags for self-defense with that round for both the rifle and the pistol. I do keep a few mags of the 64 grain federal law enforcement round that we tested several months ago. It's a very good barrier blind round. I really like that round. I don't think the MSR would be good in a barrier blind situation with plywood or something like that from the results that we saw in the bear gel. So until I'm able to test the MSR with a good barrier test, I'm going to keep those old 64 grain law enforcement rounds just for that. But for pure self-defense, if you like a bonded round like I do, that round, the MSR, is going to be hard to beat there. So we'd love to get your guys' feedback as well. You have given us a ton of feedback, and I apologize. I have not been able to get back to all of them. We have been busy at work. I've been working at our church for about a week and a half, trying to do some stuff. We had hail damage here at the house a while back. I've been working on that. So life has been keeping me busy. I've actually been working on this video for about 3 weeks. I shot it the same day that we did our gold dot test. I just didn't get to finish it. And then along the way, I've been trying to edit it and do the last couple of shoots, which the last one is today. It's a Saturday. I was going to try to do a couple more tests. It's raining right now, but at least if I can get this done, I've got something for the day. But anyway, bear with us while we're trying to get all this done. I've got a whole lot of ammo that I've bought up for test, 5.56, 9 mil. We've actually got a 6.5 Grendel test we're wanting to do late this month, maybe early next month. Hopefully we get to that. So just bear with us. We're doing our best to get through this best we can. But if you like the content that we're putting out, I'll say it again, make sure you like, make sure you subscribe, and make sure your notifications are turned on so when we put something new out, you'll get a notification. And I'm going to say it again. I always say about the Second Amendment, but you just got to know there are people out there that are just, they will use any news event, I'll put it like that, to strip you of your rights. We've got to make sure we get out and we fight against that, and we give our kids and grandkids the same rights that we had. So I'm going to say it again. Make sure you get out and exercise your Second Amendment right. We'll catch you next time.